I'm going to be talking about retention, not regular retention, long-term retention, more than a paycheck. We're going to talk about how do you build that value and how do you drive intention. So that's me, right? That's who you guys are going to spend the next 20 minutes with. I have the honor and privilege to be a part of the Gusto team supporting and driving our DEI strategy, right? What does that mean? I'm a people advisor, and you're going to learn how we have way more in common than you realize. I did my about me slide a little bit different. So let me tell you a little bit about me. I come from New Jersey, so I am in an afternoon slump right now. But I represent the East Coast all the way down to my sneakers. If you did not notice, there are little Mickey Mouse heads all over them because I love Disney. Belle is my spirit animal. Love to read. She was a nerd, but in all the right ways. Education. This is where we're connected. Went to school for accounting. Loved it, but did not want to go into accounting full time. I love people, I say, just as much as I love numbers, maybe even a little bit more. Intersectionality. So, this is something that you all may have heard before, maybe not. Intersectionality really is who you are, the culmination of your experiences that make you you. So, what does that mean when I'm talking to y'all today? Who I am and what makes me me is nothing like what makes you you in the audience. And it's going to be really important to remember that as we talk about building retention. Honesty. You have to be honest. If you're not honest, how are you going to be able to build your business? How are you going to be able to retain your staff? And lastly, be open. Stay curious. You have to ask yourselves questions. Why are people important? There's three things up here. Your employees, for you as accountants, but also for the clients that you support, are brand ambassadors. They're the ones that are going to make your business known. They're going to be able to spread your word. They understand your product or service. Who better, right? I work at Gusto. I work on the people team for a company that's a people platform. Who better to really understand the product or the service than the people that work for you? And lastly, driving profitability. So Gallup did a survey, and engaged teams actually drive 21% greater profitability just by being engaged, right? So these are three things I want y'all to remember as we go into this conversation of retention, right? Now, the title of my talk can be a little deceiving. It is more than a paycheck, but the coins matter. So I am not saying don't pay them and retain them, but you have to have something else to add on to that package besides just the paycheck, right? Because the paycheck keeps them coming back every 2 weeks or every week or monthly. It does not make them come back continuously if you do not build something around that amazing compensation package. So let's talk about what are the different facets of retention. And you all may have seen different ways of seeing this in our conversation today when we talked about talent, we talked about scale, right? Compensation and benefits, right? It's the combination of those things. Flexibility to work when and where I want. We talked a little bit about remote work, and you're working with multiple time zones. We talked about international borders. That definitely is going to give a lot of different ways that this can look for retaining our talent. Challenging and impactful work. Y'all may say, Monique, I heard a little bit before, people don't want to work. We got to go other places because people don't want to be challenged. But it's the combination of the work being challenging and impactful. Are they connected to your vision? Are they connected to your mission? Do they understand why it's important to be a part of not only maybe your firm, but the companies that work with you all? Opportunities for that career growth within your company, right? Do they see a path? May not be linear, but just they see that opportunity. And I would even remix this a little bit to say that if you really put in the work with your teams, they're not going to be just great for you, but they're going to be great when they do decide to graduate and go somewhere else because you have really given them a really great foundation. And then lastly, opportunities to learn and develop new skills. So you all may be thinking, okay, well, what kind of questions is this answer? Are you going to get to how we do these things, right? By focusing on retention, it identifies what makes you different from competitors, what makes your clients different from competitors, what your current and future talent expects, right? We talked and we learned a lot from Liz around what the current market looks like from a talent perspective. How do you navigate these trends? And then lastly, what your business needs from its employees, right? It is a relationship. It's a give and take relationship, right? There is an exchange of resources. So, my accounting friends and family, let's talk about some numbers. When employees actually feel valued, there is a 50% turnover reduction, right? Just by feeling valued. Now, I mentioned intersectionality in the beginning of the conversation. So, we're going to talk about how do you build that value and how that is going to look different for everyone that you're supporting. But the other one I think is the one that may resonate all with you a little bit more. 200% of an annual salary is on average the cost it can be to replace an employee, right? Because you may be saying, hey, we're sitting here, we're learning about how to unlock talent, skill. I know what the job market looks like, but when I put out a job application, Monique, I'm getting thousands of responses. People need a job. So I hear you, but what is the benefit? And that really is around some of that cost savings, right? Think about that 200%. And that is not including all of the other costs, right? Remote employees, sending them equipment, making sure they're set up for success, a swag bag welcome, a birthday card, a t-shirt, right? Like it starts to add up. So that's why we want to spend this time talking about retention. So let's talk about this formula, right? What the conversation is more than a paycheck. Value plus intention is what is going to get you there, right? So we're going to understand what are the doors you need to unlock. That's the whole theme of the conference, right? I had the opportunity to do a little video and talk, and it was like, what is the biggest thing that you learned? And I was like, I'm a key. What do I want to unlock? So we're going to talk about how to unlock retention specifically, right? How you do these things. So the investment in your employees, or when you're stepping into that people advisor, that strategic advisor space, you're really understanding what the needs are so that you can put these things together. Now, I am not going to come up here and not be honest, right? I promise honesty. Everyone's not going to be happy. So just because you do all of the things that I say, or you listen to all of the conversations in this topic around retention, everyone may not be happy. But what we really want to make sure is that there is a building of value with an intentionality. And most likely, it is going to lead to that long-term retention, right? Because you're putting in the value and you're being very thoughtful about how you're approaching things. And the folks that pay attention to that, they're going to stay. And they're going to stay for a long time. They're not going to just be counting down to the next paycheck. So these are the two questions that we're going to dive into. How do you build value? And what does intention look like? Right? We talked about the 5 aspects of retention that you really need to unlock. Now, when I was putting this together, I was really trying to decide, do I want to start with the value, right? Like it's the beginning of the equation. So maybe I should start there. Or do I want to start with intention? And I said, you know what? I need to start with intention because you can't build anything if you haven't thought about it, if you haven't made a plan. So, what does intention look like? How do you do that? These are the 3 things that I think about when building intention around retention strategies. So the first is the room. Who's there? Does everybody look like you? You can't build that way. Are you only thinking about what your needs are, how you're impacted? We know that a lot of you in your firms are employing folks across international borders. It's going to be really hard to have intentionality around building a retention strategy if you are not taking into consideration those cultural differences. You have to take those in mind. So make sure you're looking around the room. Who's there? What are you leveraging? Second, who are you looking to impact? All right. Like, what are you really trying to change? Are you trying to impact contractors, part time folk, full time folks that this is just a stop on their journey, or people that are going to be with you for a really, really long time? So, I'm going to make it a little bit more relatable experience. A couple weeks ago, I was very sick and I took medicine for a week straight and I was not getting better. Runny nose, coughing, tired. And after a week, I called my friend who's a pharmacist, called my friend who's a doctor, called my mommy. And I said, I don't feel better. I don't know what to do. They're like, go to the doctor. Like, oh yeah, I should do that, right? But we've lived in a society for so long. It's like, but when you go, you don't know what they're gonna tell you. But I went begrudgingly, and when I went there, they did a myriad of tests, and I ended up having an ear infection and an upper respiratory infection. I was not treating those things because I surely do not have anything in my home to make an antibiotic. I was treating the symptoms. I had a runny nose. I had a cough. Let me take some cough drops, drink some tea, Campbell noodle soup, ginger ale and crackers. I don't know if anyone else that is your family, ginger ale and crackers is going right. Like put some Vicks on the feet with some socks, right? Like it's gonna come out. Put some, garlic down there, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, wow, I was really paying to the symptoms. Now the next one on here is trackable measure, and I'm gonna continue the story. But when I talk about trackable measure, we talked about right, like just like the rest of y'all, I love numbers. I love writing reports. Trust but verify, right? Audit it, make sure what's really going on. If you've already got the right people in the room, you know who you want to impact, how do you hold yourself accountable? Are you just doing it for fun? Are you doing it to say you did it? Or did you put together a system in place that you're going to be able to go back to and check and see the things that I was actually trying to change? Did they change? Did something else change? Did something else come up that I didn't think about when I made up this process or plan? So, going back to me being sick, the doctor said, hey, I need you to take this for 7 days. I need you to take this until it runs out, and this I need you to take for 14 days. You're going to feel better in 2 days. Don't stop taking the medicine. Okay. Right. So I'm taking it day one. I'm like, okay. Second day, I was like, ooh, I could breathe again. I could work out. I'm feeling it. But I remembered trackable measure. I needed to continue it until the doctor told me. So that means if you come up with a great retention strategy and you say, in the DEI space, I'll use that as a point of inflection. I always tell people it's a long journey. If you are looking for results in a year, I'm not your gal because it ain't gonna be there. It's going to be a journey and you have to keep going. Right. So similarly, when you're building out a retention strategy, are you looking 6 months in the future? Are you looking a year? Are you looking 3 years? Are you looking 5 years? Now, this does not mean it cannot change, but what is your North Star? Where are you going? So now, got the right people in the room. We know who we're trying to impact, and we know how we're going to hold ourselves accountable. How do you build the value? So here's the three things: be honest, stay curious, follow through. All right. Why is be honest up here? When you're building retention, there's two people you have to be honest with: yourself and the people you're trying to impact. If you're not honest with yourself, guess what? Bias, blind spots, all of that is going to pop up. If you're not honest with the people you're trying to impact, y'all know what happens, right? You lose trust. They leave. They don't want to be there anymore. Stay curious, ask questions, dive deeper, figure out what's going on. So I'll use another scenario. At Gusto, for you, all of you that do not know, way back in the day, not too long ago, but everyone used to wear socks around the office or slippers, right? It was just the thing. So as we went to COVID, everybody's home. I wore slippers and socks around my house. But when we were coming out to the office, we were having a conversation, and folks were like, "Oh my goodness, are we going to be able to wear socks? Oh, I want to wear my socks on my slippers." And I asked a question. I said, is it that you want to wear socks or do you want to feel comfortable in the environment that you're working? And it was the latter. I stayed curious. I kept asking questions to understand what were they trying to achieve? Was it a feeling? Was it a type of environment? Rather than, okay, I have to make sure everyone has socks when they come back, when we're back in the office. No. What I need to make sure is that when everyone comes to that door, it's just as comfortable as when they're at home, but they have to wear pants. I don't know about the rest of y'all when y'all work from home. Right? So stay curious. And then the follow through is right, like you did all these things, you gotta follow through. A plan is nothing if you do not follow through. Right? So when you think about value, be honest, stay curious, follow through. You have to get it across the finish line because otherwise, this is all about what we talked about in the building, right? Like that trust. So the intention and the value, right? Those things together create long term retention. So thinking about retention again, I'm putting this slide. This is the second time y'all seeing this slide. You're gonna see it again. So don't get bored. But these are the five things by driving or building retention. When you think about value intentionality, when you put those things together, you can look at this slide and say, okay, which one of these things do I want to put some muster behind? And maybe you're not sure. You're learning a lot of different information. Gusto has a myriad of ways that they're able to help you get to long-term retention. And I'm talking about y'all and your firms. I've talked to so many people who are building their teams out and they're like, but I need to keep them. Right. But then you also have the ability to transfer that to the clients that you support, being an advisor, being strategic, understanding the people side of the business. So there we go. Unlocking value for you and your team. So now I'm going to talk to you about how Gusto does that, right? How could I be on the people team at a people platform and not talk about if I care about it this much, our product has to, right? It would not make sense. Those things have to be related. You heard a lot about the people advisory program. We saw some hands earlier in the day of folks that have taken advantage of this, right? We have the people advisory certification, the accelerator, and of course, my favorite, people analytics. All right, give me the data, but qualitative and quantitative have to be used together to make any type of analytic decision be data informed, not data driven. All right. You have to put those things together. Um, I do want to point out, right? Like, I think I'm a resident people advisor at Gusto, right? It only makes sense. But by becoming a strategic advisor as an accountant, you have the potential to increase your monthly client revenue by 50%. Now, I know early in the day, y'all saw a ginormous number on there. I'm not going to do that to y'all. I'm going to give y'all something that's maybe a little bit more digestible to know that you can achieve that on a monthly revenue. So we talked about y'all. Let's go to the other side, right? Because you all do have clients that you do work with. What else does Gusto have? So thinking about those five aspects of employee retention, and when we talk about building value, and we talk about having intention behind what we do, performance reviews, right? That's very closely aligned to where do people want to go? What do they want to do? What do they want to learn? If you don't have that, if you're not providing them any type of baseline or understanding of what they're doing, how will they continue to grow and want to stay for a long period of time? Goal tracking, accountability. I know it's a very, nobody likes that word. We don't like it in our personal lives. We don't like it at work, but it has to exist. How are you holding yourself accountable? Are you holding your teams accountable? And then how are you providing that additional insight to your clients, right? Of, hey, these are some things from a strategic perspective that I want you to think about. Because payroll is a process, it happens on a consistent cadence. But what are we doing all the rest of the days of the week? Are we waiting for the next payroll cycle and just twiddling our thumbs, hoping people show up to get that check? Or are we being intentional? Are we thinking about retaining them? And lastly, 401k integrations. Listen, I know there is no social security out there for me. Nowhere. I have looked under every rock, nook and cranny. It is all about how I invest for myself. And most importantly, too, right? It's wealth generating. You have the ability to not only impact folks that work with you now, but when they're retired on a beach somewhere, they're going to say, I remember when I was able to invest in this 401k. And now instead of two pina coladas, I can have four, right? They're going to appreciate that. They are going to appreciate that from you. Now, I'm going to go to the next slide in just a moment. But before I go there, the reason I wanted to make sure I showed this is because even as I'm talking, some people are still going to be skeptical of like, hey, Monique, I've tried all that stuff. It doesn't work. I've tried to retain people. I want them to stay. They won't stay. They keep leaving. I'm intentional. I'm going to ask you to go back to your room because a lot of times that's where it starts. We can't, in good conscience, build things for diverse teams without having folks at the table to help us build that in an intersectional and inclusive way, right? 75% of turnover is preventable. 75. That means that if you had 100 people that if I added up all the people that you lost, and let's say in this room, you lost 100 people in the past year, 75 of them you could have kept. That's a lot of people. And we already heard how much it costs to replace that 75% of people, right? It's expensive. Things are expensive. We heard Liz, I love our Gustonomics team, but sometimes they remind me of the world we live in, right? The economy that we're in. 75 of those people could have stayed. You could have retained them. You could have kept them there with you by being a little bit more intentional and thoughtful about what you were doing to keep them there. I told y'all was going to see it again, right? It's the last slide, so don't worry. I'm winding down. I might be blinding you with the jacket, so I'm going to be getting off the stage, but this is the magic behind door number 3, compensation and benefits. Paycheck has to come. People don't work for free anymore, at least. Flexibility to work when and where I want. I want to wear my socks in the office. I want to wear my socks at home. I want to be able to collaborate in person. I want to collaborate with people internationally. Challenging and impactful work. Far are we from the days of going to work just to go to work? People want to be connected in some way, shape, or form to what they're doing, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just to be like, yeah, I work for that company that does that thing. Or if they're a part of your firm, within our firm, we have helped so many small businesses. We have done so many things, opportunities for career growth within the company. You can call it whatever kind of ceiling you want, glass, bamboo, wooden, steel. It doesn't matter. Is it there? Does it exist? Have you done anything to remove it? Lastly, opportunities to learn and develop new skills. That's not only a benefit for them, but it's a benefit for you. We had a whole conversation about AI. I'm very freaked out. Everyone at the Luma, you had robots delivering things to your room. I'm like, what if they break in? My boyfriend's in cybersecurity. I'm like, can you hack it? Okay, we're good. But they're going to be able to help you. By the more skills that they learn, they're going to be able to enhance your business, scale your business, unlock possibilities. So as I'm winding down, would love for you to turn to the person next to you. You could whisper it or you could say it in your head. Whichever one of these is one of the ones that you might want to focus on over the next year. Which one of these really speaks to you? And then you have so many amazing, beautiful Gusties here that can help you do that, right? That's what we're here for. We are a people platform run by people that care about people, and it just continues. So I'm going to go back to what I told y'all earlier when I was over there and I was doing a little thing, right? Unlock is the theme. Everyone in this room is a key. Mine is probably rose gold with some emerald diamonds because I'm a Taurus. But everyone's a key. What key do you want to be? What doors do you want to unlock for yourself, your firm, and your clients? I'm ending with this slide up, right? Because to me, on this slide, what you see are Gusties holding you up to unlock talent, scale, and retention. That's me in the front. If you didn't see, I got a haircut since they did the graphic. But that's what we're here for. I hope that you all were able to take something away, right? Value and intention can lead to long-term retention, but it won't be an easy road. We're all here, though, to help you. We are carrying you the keys to unlocking whatever possibility it is that you'd like for yourself, for your firm, and your clients. I hope y'all enjoyed your time with me. I enjoyed it with you all.